That's going to be a tight one, isn't it? Let's go remove some of my cache files from DaVinci. That gains me 10 entire gigabytes. Wow. Should I have prepared a little bit more for this before starting the stream? Yeah. Am I running late on literally everything today anyway? Also, yeah. Let's see if this cleans up any more. Recycle bin empty. 72 gigs should be enough, I think. Maybe. We'll see. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter Godot stream compared to the last couple of weeks because today's just been a whole thing, and let me just like fucking caffeine it up with some energy drink, which always tastes awful, but at least I'll survive throughout the stream. So the reason I'm about 10 minutes or so late, or like, oh, it's only 5 minutes, so it's not that bad, is before the stream started, I was trying to get IntelliSense to work with Godot, and it's just not. Which is to say that if I just made a quick temporary file here, if I go into my files and I go into like my just inventory class, for instance, if I want to reference a function or a thing that exists like in here, for instance, this is draw inventory. If I want to access the display card clicked function, it does work for that. So something that is just like inside here, it can access. What it cannot do is do anything else. Like Godot's, it's using Godot, right? So Godot's static functions, like the thing that I've been trying to do this with has been GD print. It just doesn't. Copilot is a halfway decent stand-in for that, but not exactly, right? Copilot is good at like auto-completing and predicting, but actually like having the IntelliSense with being able to like hover over a function to see what its possible parameters are, that kind of stuff, if it has different overrides, that is kind of stuff that you want to be able to see. Being able to... This just, like, this doesn't know that it's a valid function at this point. Like, it's not even called like a fucking function, right? I can't F12 this and go to its definition because it doesn't know. It doesn't know. And I looked up here, and it is actually interesting because it is like using Godot and using system, but these are just blue. So that leads me to believe that Godot, when it compiles this, like when it builds this, it has access to everything, so it doesn't result in any errors. For some reason, I think VS Code might be missing some stuff, but it's not erroring me out on it, and it's really, really confusing. So we're going to just go on and deal without it, because I spent half an hour on it, and now we're streaming, and we actually need to get like some stuff done. If anybody has run into anything similar to this, do let me know. But in the meantime, we're going to keep on going with the game. So today, between doing some other stuff, I did finish off making some more... what the fuck? I did finish making some more sprites, is what I was going to say. As you can see, I've got a sprite sheet for like the entire walk cycle in all directions, which is really, really good. But my sprite frames here doesn't seem to quite be doing what I wanted to be doing. That's because okay, so what I did is I updated the sprite sheet to be like 3x3 instead of just like a very long 1x9 sprite. It's now reading from that sprite in coordinates that don't exist, so I need to update that. There's no real reason that I made it 3x3 as well, which makes it even worse. But let's do this. So we just go in here in our like resources, I think. Right, and then a sprite. And then we set these to 32 by 32. And this is the idle pose for the side position. So I've got the idle, left step, right step for all 3 directions. You might be saying, hey, but there's 4 directions, except there's really not, is there, though? Because left and right are the same sprite, just flipped. So we can add that 1 frame to here, and then the sidewalk, as you can see, we have some more stuff going on. So let's delete these. We can use this sprite again. So for this, what I actually do is I do this frame, then this frame, then this frame. And this is really kind of annoying that you can't add the same frame more than once. Maybe I can just like copy paste like that. I can. And then I do this frame again. So it is, otherwise it looked a little funny. I can try to show you in a moment. And then we have the up idle animation. There we go. Which is not really an animation, it's just like a frame, right? Hello, welcome to the stream. Let's see if we can get everything hooked up properly. So then we've got the walking animation for up. And for this one, I don't use the like pause or the idle frame in the middle, because it's not quite needed, I don't think, and it does make it a little bit more jumpy. So we just go back and forth between left and right. And these seem to still be the same. Okay, so now we should have directional sprites for everything. So we can move in those directions. And you see how there's a lot of stuttering. Again, for some reason, Godot just kind of stutters on my machine. I don't know why. But you see how, well, actually I don't even need to walk. This kind of works as an animation, him walking back and forth, because we go down to the middle frame every single time. If I take out those middle frames real quick, right, you're going to see that it is really, really ugly. Sprite frames, there we go. So the sidewalk, if I like take these out and do it the same way as the left or the up and down animation, it's not going to look that good, I don't think. Yeah, you see? Because the sprites aren't that different. But if you put in a sprite that is significantly different between the two of them, it does actually help out quite a bit. So that's why those sprites were in between there. As for the code, I probably, I did a little code, like 1 or 2 lines of code in between last stream and now today, just to get the player directionality set up. I'll show you. All we did is in the player movement here, we're now doing if Y direction movement is greater or less than, 0, we do the up walk and we make sure that we are not flipping the sprite horizontally. If it is greater, we do the down walk, again, not flipped. If X is less than 0, we do the side animation, of course, not flipped. And if it is greater than 0, we do it not flipped, and this one is flipped. I don't know what I was saying before. You get the point of what we're doing here. So now the only issue that I didn't actually solve yet, because I wanted to save that for stream, because we need to actually do stuff while you guys are watching, not just me messing about on my own. Aside from the fact that this still stutters, which I hope to God that this is like a editor thing, and that when I build this into its own exe, it's not going to maintain this. This seems to be an issue that I cannot find anywhere else online. So this seems to be very much a me issue. And I can't imagine it means that every single game ever made in Godot stutters on my machine. So it has to be something to do with the editor. I don't know. I'll tell you one thing though, it's really fucking annoying. But yeah, he doesn't stop walking. So we can solve that in a number of issues. The first thing that I was thinking is what we could do is we could make a like enum class, which is like last direction, and we just have up, down, left, right there, right? And then we put in a private last direction was last direction down. And that way, if we're not putting any inputs, what we could do is, and we probably should at this point like make this into its own function, a handful of functions maybe, and we'll do that in a moment. But what we can do now is we can just add in a switch statement. So we switch on last direction, and then we have like case up, down, left, right, up idle, down idle, side idle, side idle. And I don't even think we need to worry about the flipping of the sprites in the idle states, to be honest with you. I was going to, until this very second. Because, and hear me out here, those should only ever change when you're moving anyway. Those shouldn't, like, there shouldn't be any scenario where we are, like, moving to the left, where this is true, and then we end up in, like, the up idle state without first going through the up walking, I don't think. So this is kind of everything there is to it. Which means that we now should have all our stuff. So let's try it. Let's first check whether or not those are the right names for the animations though. Or the sprites, rather. Up idle, side idle. It does know all of them. Okay. Which implies... Hold on, that's actually interesting. Because that either implies that my naming scheme makes sense compared to these, which, to be fair, it's not that complicated. Or that it can look into... this file over here. Like, does this file actually like contain these as strings? It does. So it probably just got them out of this file then, right? Anyway, let's see whether or not this works well enough. The fuck are you talking about? Oh, we need to... I always forget that at the end of an enum class you need to put a semicolon, because it's just... Like, at the end of a normal class, you don't do that. At the end of a function, you don't do that. At the end of an enum, I guess you're, like, declaring a thing here, but it's also like an enum... Anyway. That should... The fuck do you mean? You don't semicolon... You don't semicolon in an enum, right? After every declaration, you do a comma. Am I going insane? Well, yes, I am, but like unrelated to this. Am I going insane? C# declare enum class. Is it not an enum class? Is it just enum? I think it might just be enum. Let's check out whether or not that is what we're looking for. It's going to be relevant because the other thing that we're going to do today is add card rarity, and that's also going to be using enums. So, oh, that makes sense actually, because what we didn't do is when we move in any given direction, give our Copilot, come on, do your thing. You're not going to do your thing. You could scratch his head on idle, but that would require me to like make animation frames for that, so no. Could be cool, don't get me wrong. I like the idea. I don't like the idea of having to make those sprites. So, I'm already doing way too much art here. Last direction equals last direction up. Down, left, and right. Filter build project. Fair enough. So that should now leave me to, yeah. Okay, my directional movement just straight up seems to work now. And it kind of has a pretty good built-in like diagonal thing. Like when we are walking diagonally, it pretty much always seems to favor the top and the bottom animations. Which is a decision that we could hard code in a lot more here, but it's just because it's checking these in this direction, right? It's checking the up and the down first, and if it also has one of these, well, tough luck, it already executed one of those. So I actually think that's kind of fine. We could keep track of the last button that we input. At which point we like face him in that direction particularly. Could you just like not make noise in the background of my stream? Thank you very much. What the fuck is... Anyway. So, next thing that I want to do is in my... You're just going to have to deal with the fact that there's somebody like... I don't know what they're doing. Fucking sawing through something. Maybe like polishing or something. I don't know. We have our like guard. That's our scripts and our prefabs somewhere. We have our objects. So this is our guard scene, right? And this is pretty much good to go. But I want to add something more to this. So I want to add guard rarity to this. So here we're going to add another enum now, which apparently doesn't have to be an enum class. Sure. Enum rarity, which common, uncommon, rare, and legendary. It's pretty much standard, right? I think that's pretty standard. And then we're going to just put in a rarity. And then on set guard info, no, I don't think. That's a good point, isn't it? Because the card itself doesn't have a draw card function, which is like, does that make sense? Yeah, I suppose that the card by itself never needs to be drawn; only needs to be drawn in a container. So that means that we're going to go into the inventory screen, I think, right? Which literally has no code in it. Okay. Just straight inventory screen then. Also has no code in it. What the fuck is going on? Is it entirely in the chest? No, surely not. I must be missing something. Something must be fucking up here. Okay, in the inventory, I don't know what component it is. We have the draw inventory thing. And in draw inventory, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to not have a draw card function, does it? You probably should move some of this code to the card. Because now, I think we also have a second class somewhere that does something slightly different here. because it just prints them in different locations. Yeah, even the syntax highlighting is all kinds of fucked up now. I don't know. Like, this is a class. This is honestly like damn near unworkable now. But we're just gonna live with it. I guess I'm just going to say the card to spawn. Yeah, I don't really know. Let's take a look into how we can potentially put this inside of the card class, because I don't think that we should be drawing this. We can call it draw card function, right? So we get our... Okay, so what we do is we copy this over and we make our... We have set card info, and then we have... let's call this void draw card. And we're not going to put anything in there. We're just going to copy that over real quick. I'm fine instantiating it outside, I think. Am I? Yeah, I need to actually, so that makes sense. But then we can like set card info. Like we can take in a card resource here. Let's call that card to draw. And then we can have our card to spawn. We can just call draw card on that. Yeah, I'm starting to think that this might not make as much sense, but it's also, again, kind of hard to make sense of any of this when it's not properly highlighted. And when somebody keeps fucking sawing through whatever the fuck outside. Well, my kind of liquid life has just run out. So I'm gonna have to deal on my own going forward. So we have our card to... You know what? No, actually, I'm not going to refactor this, because at this point, like, I am not, like, fully awake. Gonna be real with you guys. I am, like, effectively a coding zombie at the moment. My intelligence doesn't work. My fucking syntax highlighting barely works. Like, I'm not gonna touch this stuff. What I'm gonna do instead is I'm just going to go all the way the fuck down here. I'm going to say, hey, what fucking class has the... I guess we have like set card info here, right? Okay, so in set card info, hold on. What we can do is... we can add a switch statement. Okay, I just figured it out. Card rarity. Case. The fuck are you even talking about, mate? Switch. Rarity. We can put in a case for rarity common. Exactly. We want to change up like the tint of these images. So we've got our card image. So that is our card image. And here it would be really fucking nice to have IntelliSense so that I can actually figure this stuff out. But I suppose we'll just have to get to Godot docs. Godot, what even is this? It is I think it's a rectangle texture, right? That's what that says. Like where even does this thing exist? Oh, it creates it here. That makes sense. Yeah, so it's a rectangle texture. Godot, rectangle texture rectangle. That also makes sense. Does this thing have like a tint? Probably should have looked into this before. We have mouse filtering, flipping, expand mode. Does this thing really not have a tint? I suppose it has a texture 2D inside it, which might have a tint. Methods. Let's see. Draw rect region. Get height, get width. Has alpha. Is pixel opaque. Create placeholder resource. Draw. Canvas item position color. Modulate color. It's not ideal if we have to do it that way. You would assume that we can just like give in a tint for a UI element, right? Godot tint image. Yeah, so don't override it, I just want to tint it. You can use modulate, but instead of increasing the colors you want, you decrease the colors you don't want. I'm sure you can. So is it just called modulate? Like if I just get like my card image. It is add override color, but that's not what I want. So card image dot modulate. Now it would be really good again if I had IntelliSense and I could figure out if this thing has like preset colors. Like if we had something like color. Like something static, maybe. Like color.red. Because working with this like scale of 0 to 1 for RGB is like a nightmare. I guess we could like define our own colors and work with those, but I think we're just gonna go with like this for now. So let's see. This is definitely not how we want this to look, by the way. Normal is just the usual colors. This should be entirely green. This should be entirely blue, and this will be purple. Those colors do make sense with the given... Like, this is how I like it. Do you have the Godot extension for VS Code? Yes, I do, I think. I might have removed it due to everything not working in the first place. Oh, I seem to have uninstalled it. That might, and I'm also just going to install the C# tools. That might be the reason that I don't have proper syntax highlighting, at least. Would be really, really helpful if I get that back. Because it's kind of messing me the fuck up, not gonna lie. let's just like restart VS Code real quick. You see, it highlights everything for like a second, and then everything just goes back to blue. it something is broken. I don't know what, but something is entirely like fucked. And it seems like it is able to find like the like proper like language server or whatever, and then that gets overridden by something. That's what it seems like to me. I use Rider, so yeah. I mean, I do feel like checking Rider out at some point, because also for Unreal, people are like very, very excited and like hyped about it. The only thing that I want to like double check out is whether or not it has like a Copilot built in, or if it works with GitHub Copilot as well. Because at this point, like, I kind of feel like an IDE or at least like a code editor, I suppose. Technically, not everything that can edit code is an IDE, but at this point, like an IDE needs to have support for some kind of like more intelligent, like MLM code assistant, because it just helps me so much, man. You can use Copilot. I use it. Okay. I might not right now, but I might like do like a stream fucking about with Rider like in a couple of weeks then, because that does seem kind of good. Again, I don't think that these colors are exactly as we want them to be, but let's just for shits and giggles, we need to export this value as well. I just realized. Okay, so let's build this, and now in our, the fuck is the problem? Switch statement needs a semicolon at the end, maybe. Oh, makes sense. A constant value is expected. This is not C++, so that's not how you get a static value. Oh, hold on. That needs to be in. Good fucking morning. That should fix it. Also, if you pay for it like every year, it gets cheaper. Yeah, that's most software. Most services in general. The issue with that, actually, interestingly, Adobe doesn't do that. Adobe is the exact same price, monthly versus yearly. The issue is that that then ends up with, like once a year, me being like, shit, this is the month that I have to pay the subscription. Where am I going to get that money? Whereas it is monthly. Like, if you just have a stack of fucking gold coins that you sleep on anyway, you don't really feel that. If money's tight already, budgeting for a bunch of different subscriptions, all of which only get like deducted from your bank account once a year, can be a real fucking pain. And that's one of those like the rich get richer, right? Like being poor is expensive. Not to like be a little bitch about it, but hey. So yeah, what am I doing wrong here? But yeah, I might take a look into Rider. Honestly, like tomorrow if I have time, because that means that I can do at least like this Godot streaming, maybe through a Rider instead of VS Code. So we'll see. Oh, so you can get like a 12-month contract and you still pay monthly. Okay, that is much better. Like if you can do that, because that is the whole deal about like paying once a year, so they lock you in for a year, right? And that's also probably why Adobe is the same price, because when you get Adobe, you have a contract for at least a year. At least for business. I don't know how it is for personal. I'm assuming that there might be a difference there. But that does make a change. Like I am happy to like for an ID. Like I'm happy to like put down $7 a month for a year. The thing is, I'm not going to put down like $80 at once. But if that is, yeah, no, that is fair. So that's cool. What's less cool is that I maybe it's just this function that does not properly exist. I don't know what the fuck is even going on. A constant value is expected, but that is a constant value, right? Like, how is that different from... Wait, does a switch statement need to have, like... No, right? Oh, hold on. You don't put these in. Is that me being an idiot, or is that a C# thing versus a C++ thing? That might just be me being an idiot. I'm gonna look this up real quick, because I feel like I don't put out colons in for no reason, like, right? Switch statement C++. Yeah, okay, so that's a C++ thing. At least I'm not going insane. Cool, okay. So that did build now, right? Yes, it did. Test card. Do we have a rarity value? We do not. Does an exported value need to be public? Does the enum need to be public? I'm guessing maybe the enum definition needs to be public for that to work. Maybe not. Oh, I'm an idiot, I think. Yeah, this is straight up just the wrong class that I'm in. Needs to be called resource. Which means that... Oh, that's actually... That is a thing, isn't it? Might as well put that in there as well. Export can be anything. So, yeah. My question is mostly, does the enum itself need to be public? But now another file needs to, another class needs to access this enum anyway to be able to like actually do anything with it. So, yes, it needs to be public. Is this going to break now that it doesn't have that definition in there? Rarity does not exist in current context. That is fair because it needs to be card.rarity. Rarity is inaccessible due to its protection level. That is, again, fair because it's not public. Public. Now we have rarity, drop down, common, uncommon, rare, legendary. So if I open the game and I open my inventory, which I think was E, we have our common cards. Fantastic. If I set this card now to being... Oh no, that actually... For troubleshooting purposes, I'm going to keep this on the card resource. The resource itself isn't going to be what holds this value. It is the card display that holds... It's the inventory that needs to worry about this, not the card resource. Because every single card is going to have all these versions, and we're not going to make separate resources for them all. Anyway, if this is uncommon, the card is entirely green. The card border itself also needs to be green, I just realized, but we'll worry about that in a moment. And then this should be blue. The blue. The effect should be less pronounced than it is right now. But we'll worry about that in a moment. And this is purple, right? Man, that's ugly. Well, at least that works. So now, yeah, so this does not need to exist on here, I just realized. And this doesn't need to be an exported value, I don't think. This does go on the card display after all. Actually, where does it go? Like, what is the inventory? Right? The inventory has like an array of something. It has an array of card resources cards. Okay, so we need to think about this. We do need to think about this because I didn't think this through. I just came up with the idea of, hey, maybe we should have like different rarity cards because that's how card games work in the real world. I like literally today. But we can't put it on the resources because those are assets. So if we change one of them, they all change. But our array is of that. So how are we going to store the rarity for them all? How are we going to... That's a goddamn good question. I guess what we do is we make a struct, right? And we call this card slots. And that has a card resource and a rarity in it. And we just make an array of that instead. That makes the most sense to me. So that'll be a card resource card. And then... Fucking weird that I put the rarity thing. Because we're just going to copy that. Put that in there. I don't think it needs to be public anymore, actually. Now we're doing it this way. So then we also put in a... Do these need to be public? I don't think these will need to be public. Maybe they do need to be public. I don't know. We'll put in a rarity for rarity. And then we simply say, hey, we want to do an array of card slots instead. So in theory, now we fail to build. Is less accessible. Okay, so hold on. Rarity is less accessible than field card.rarity. But yeah, I don't think that the card itself needs to be aware of its rarity. I don't think that it does. Yeah, because when the card info gets set, we just like pass in a rarity. And anytime we're going to be interacting with this card, as in displaying it, or like buying and selling it, it's going to be interacted through the inventory, which is going to have that value anyway. Would it be better to put that on the card slot? No, because the inventory needs to be aware of it to draw it in the first place. Because the inventory doesn't have an array of these cards, because this is literally only a visualization. So, it makes sense that that should be on the inventory. Okay, then we have array card slot has less accessible field than inventory.card. What the fuck are we talking about? Public Godot collections, card slot. inventory.cards. So this is public. Oh, the struct itself needs to be public as well, because that makes sense. If somebody wants to access this, they also need to be able to access this, right? Question is, does this need to be accessed by something else? I probably made it public to begin with for a reason, so let's just not touch that at the moment. Rarity is less accessible than card slot dot rarity. So yeah, again, rarity itself also needs to be public. Because something accessing this needs to access this, needs to access that. That makes sense. Okay, yeah. And now we have more errors. What the fuck? Cannot convert card slot to... Oh, yeah. No, that makes sense. So for card slots... card slot in cards, we make card resource card is card slot.card. Just easier to retrofit our code like that, I think. So rewrite everything. Resource property name does not contain a definition for name. I don't even know what this is about. Like, what even is all this? Like, none of this makes sense, because none of this has anything to do with what I was just working on. So this is just Godot breaking, I think. Yeah, I think this is literally just Godot falling apart. So let's... just real quick. See if restarting the engine fixes that, because that seems like an engine issue. Is there a duplicate function to make resource a unique copy? I don't think that there is. And if there is, I don't know that I would have just added it, because I just changed that array type. So something that I can think of is that Godot collections array doesn't take instructs. So let's, just for testing purposes, take this out and make it like a just normal traditional array. And see if that fixes it. It fixes a lot of shit. Not everything, but it fixes a lot of shit. This type of export field is not supported. So you can't export structs. Seriously. Or you can't export normal arrays. No, you can export normal arrays, right? I can make a like int array and I can export that. I've done that before. I'm like 92% sure. Yes, you just can't export a struct. Okay, that kind of sucks. That's, I suppose, where Godot collections array comes in, but then that becomes a problem when I try to make a collection of this struct as well. Yeah, try to use C# collections unless you want the editor to interact with the array. Well, this does need to be interacted with in the editor, I think. Well, maybe not. But again, even if I don't use like Godot collections, right? If I just say, hey, I want to make this like a standard array, it screams at me. Because then it won't allow me to type of export field not supported inventory.cards. So it won't allow me to make an array of those, at least. It'll just not allow me to export a struct at all. yeah, it just doesn't allow me to export that as a struct at all. So let's look into that. Godot export struct variable. Make a vector, an abstract class that will require me to make a new file. Variation of a so are they saying you should just make it a class? Effectively? I mean, if it's just a class, we can do it like this. Still. Let's try that. Okay, so now we've got some other issues, but I think the array issue is solved now. You can't export C# collections. You go, no, you can. Like I literally did that a moment ago. Like if I just change this into, like, okay, that works now, right? If I like export a like integer fucking, there we go, integer array ints, like it's not going to complain about this at all. Like I did this last week. After we fix all this shit, anyway, it would compile properly. So I don't think that's the issue. I'm like 91% sure. Okay, so card slot and cards. Card resource card is equal to card slot dot card. That makes sense. So what is the actual issue here? Cannot convert card slot to card resource. Where is it trying to do that? Oh, yeah, so chest inventory. Because this is horribly written. Because it effectively has the same loop in 2 locations. Because I thought that was a good idea for whatever reason. Don't try to reason with me. Yeah, they're going to have this issue in a couple of places, isn't it? Well, that's annoying. Can we just like... Yeah, we can just like kind of do that. Oh, hold on, no, it already has that. It's just... Oh, it needs to do it in the... That's why. I get it. I get it. This is if it needs to open up the player's inventory. I really probably should have done something different about this, because this is so fucking messy. Okay. Only a couple of issues. I don't quite understand this issue. What do you mean? What do you mean? Because inventory.cards is, yeah, that's going to be our new card slot variable. So is it like, let's put these side by side real quick. It's missing a bracket somewhere, maybe. No, I don't think that it is. Oh, hold on. That's the issue. Okay. Okay, so maybe now we're getting back into the fact that you can't actually export those integer arrays like I thought you could. I could have sworn that I did literally that last week and somebody told me like, hey, you should use Godot collections. Yeah, now it still's got the same issue. So I kind of just did all that for nothing because we still have the same issue now. So Godot source generators property resource property name does not contain definition for name. Description, image. God resource does not contain definition for rarity. No accessible method rarity. God resource rarity. Yes, that is correct. But nothing refers to card resource rarity, does it? Scripts card.cs. It might. Oh, no, it does. Does it? Because it... Oh, this needs to take in a card slot as well now. Card slots. And then we... Oh, that's not ideal the way I named that. Because now we need to do card.card.image and card.card.name and card.card.description. Yeah, that's bad. It doesn't allow a class array. Okay, that makes sense. But that then does get me back into maybe we can just use it as a struct instead of a class. It doesn't really matter that much, I suppose. If it works as a class, I should just shut the fuck up and use it like that. Cannot implicitly convert card slot to card resource. Isn't there a way, hold on, isn't there a way to like create that kind of implicit casting where if it gets called as a card resource, it just returns the resource inside it? C# implicit casts in class. I don't even know how to Google this. User defined explicit implicit conversions. Yes, so how do we do this? Would it be better to just update my code? Yes. Okay, so I think we can just... If we just say card resource, oh, there we go. I found it. I found it. I think so. That is public static. Status static implicit operator and then card resource so that might do it, at which point it might actually need to be a class anyway. Okay, I don't think that did it. I'm gonna be real with you. I broke so much fucking code. I shouldn't have started a stream today. This is what happens when you... Okay. Let's just ask Copilots. I need an implicit conversion in this class for when it is called as a card resource. It should return the card resource. With this operator, you can now do something like this. New cards, card slots is new card slots. Card resource, card is slots, implicit conversion. Isn't this literally just the code that we just had? I'm pretty sure this is literally just the code that we just had. Maybe not. This seems like maybe it is different code. Let's try to build it. Yep, still is an issue. Cannot convert from card resource to card slot. Huh? What? We're trying to set card info on card to spawn. Card to spawn is a card. So where in the fuck does card slot or card resource even come into this? I mean, this is a card slot, so we can just like get card dots. What even was it again? Sorry, that implicit conversion that we just added in didn't work. Didn't do shit. Right, so we need to call card.card here. So again, this function, I might just be misunderstanding, don't do shit. But that means that we need to do set card info on card.card. This is a mess. What the fuck? Like, we need to go into chat's inventory now. And this is why we need to like make this better. Because this code is starting to become really fucking weird. I don't think any of this stream is going to end up in the video. Because this is just me creating issues and then solving said issues. Cannot implicitly convert card slot to card resource. Again. So this just becomes everything that is card is just card.card. And I don't even know why the fuck this says card.card. Of course that's going to error things the fuck out. I guess we just keep doing this until it stops giving us places where we're trying to implicitly convert, eh? So we just take, hey, card becomes card.card. Card becomes card.card. Is there a better way to do this project-wide? I mean, if my fucking project was working, probably, yeah. But it's not. So card resource does not name contain definition card name. Has no accessible method card name. What even? What do you mean card resource doesn't contain a card name? Oh, it's just called name. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's actually my bad. That's my bad. Hello, Mini Smith. You are catching me in the middle of a fucking mental breakdown. Hopefully you enjoy it. Because fucking look at all this, right? I feel like there's still issues here beyond just me. Card resource does not contain a definition for card and no accessible. Are you fucking kidding me? Yes, it does. Right? No, it doesn't. So this already is a card Okay. I don't think this is going to work out. I'm going to be real with you guys. I think trying to fix this is a bad idea. Because I don't think that this is going to, like, this is going to be frustrating and long to fix, and it's then going to end up with very bad, unreadable code. And one last thing, that you can get the C# extension for VS Code. That is only other thing. Yeah, I also do have that, sadly. It just doesn't want to work. Again, if I, like, you can see, if I restart language server, you'll see for a moment the syntax highlighting is proper, like with the proper colors and everything, and then it goes back to this. So what I think is happening is that when it restarts the language server, whatever is overriding this shit stops overriding it for a moment, and then it boots back up and overwrites this and breaks things, which is just fucking grand. So yeah, what I think we should do is I think we should go into my version control here. We should say, hey, definitely don't commit this. We have like, discard changes. Yes. Chest inventory, discard changes. Yes. Inventory. Discard changes. Yes. This is very loud, I'm sorry. Player movement. We don't need to discard these changes, that's fine. Card resource. Some white space. Sure. Fucking get rid of it. Okay. Now that we have all that bad code out of the way again, we can build our project. Things work again. That's a start. We don't have rarity in the game now, which... Like if I open this up now, we simply just have our inventory screen. But we still have this all right. Yes, we still have all that. Okay, cool. Let's get back into trying to put in the rarity system. Fresh slate. This is why we have version control. So, how do we do? Because again, the way that I was trying to solve it, I think makes sense. To make that either a struct or a class in and of itself, and then to group things together. Because we can't very well make it a map. Because that would be weird, right? Or I think it's called a collection in C#. Because those are, I believe, unordered, right? And moreover, like at that point we would use the card resource as a key, but I don't know how it would deal with having multiple of the same like card resource in it. I think that would be prone to breaking, probably. And we can't put the rarity on the card resource again, because that would be, we can. I mean, we can, right? We very much can. What we can do is we can just make 4 of every single card asset with just different rarity values, but that would be like, that would be insanely dumb to do. Like that, even dumber than what we were just doing. Like that's no, we're not going to do that. The next best thing that I can think of, and this is really bad. This is really bad. Well, it's not that bad, but it's still kind of like it's bad, right? Next best thing that I can think of is to go back in here and create our enum for rarity, and then just kinda like, we don't need to export this one, but kind of just like make a rarity array. We can call that rarities, that is fine. And just kind of save it all in there. Is this highly dumb? Well, actually, we probably do want to export it. But then we run into the... No, enums are fine. So yeah, now we just have it in 2 arrays. Instead of 1 array with like a struct with 2 values. You see why I think this is dumb? Then again, this is mostly done from like a user experience perspective. Because now we have 2 arrays for that. But this is all going to, for the most part, get set through code anyway. So the code needing to like access 2 arrays, or like 2 items from an array. Like 2 items from the class, from an, you know what I mean? Like it's not actually that different. Like presumably they're not going to be next to each other in memory. That's the big difference, I suppose. But this doesn't matter that much. But this is highly dumb. Don't do this. So the issue is, yeah, so we can't export rarity. Why? Because I did export an enum before. Does the enum itself need to be public? Type of export field is not supported. Inventory.rarities. So does this need to then be like a Godot collections? That seems to have done it. Okay, so if we go back into our shop level and we get the player and we get the player's inventory, we now have our cards, inventory screen, card scene, cards, which is our array of cards. And now we also have our rarity array. Fuck, I hate this. Like in theory, like if we put in like a couple of different, we need to put in the code in order to like use this info. But we can now, whenever we draw one of these, use this to offset the color. So we also just take in a rarity, and then we switch. That is what I did wrong before. I put the colon here instead of there. Okay, I'm back up to speed now. Yeah, so when we set card info, and we need to put this in like 3 places now as well, because again my code sucks. But set card info, we get rarities .I, and then in the chest inventory, I still don't know if there's any like particularly much better way to do this, to be honest with you, because it just does need to do something different for the chest inventory. So I would need to like pretty majorly change everything in order to get that to work. Okay. Inventory rarity is inaccessible because it is not public. Sure. Oh, it just doesn't draw the inventory at all now. It draws this inventory and it does do it properly, right? Kind of. Not really, actually. Oh no, it just has different colors now for them. Sure. So it does draw them properly with the proper colors. And for some reason now it also does the card border. What? Hold on. Oh! So if you modulate on a rectangle thingy texture, and that thing has child images, it also modulates those immediately with them. That is kind of neat. I do like that. So yeah, let's make this a little bit less extreme. Like, put these at like 0.75. And then this one should be lightly purple. So this should look a little less shit, I think. Cannot convert from double to float. The fuck do you mean cannot convert from double to float? I suppose we just need to specify that these are floats. Sure. Kind of weird energy, but that makes you happy. Who am I to judge? So yeah, my inventory doesn't open anymore, but that's an issue for another day. So yeah, now they actually look like differently colored cards instead of, I don't know what they were doing before. So that's pretty good. I like this. I still don't like the way we're accomplishing it. Also, there's like a lot of debugging issues. Draw inventory. Oh, yeah, no, okay. So the reason it's not drawing my inventory is because hold on. What? Oh, yeah, no, I changed the inventory in the chest. I didn't change the inventory for the player because that needs to be done all the way the fuck in here. So now it just doesn't draw the inventory if your rarity array doesn't match the length of, of your cards array, which again is so fucking stupid. Oh, that's so fucking dumb. But, like, we can do this now, right? And it will work. So I was messing around with Godot collections. It seems that if the class doesn't inherit from something from Godot, the Godot collections doesn't like it. That makes sense. That does make sense. Okay, so I can open my inventory now and close it again and have the different colors in it. I don't like this. I really do not like this. So like it works now, but I'm not gonna keep going with this because like just look at it, right? So I guess we do get back to the idea that I want to make like a class for my card slots. And let's call this card resource, or just call card res to make sure that we understand what the type is and what the variable is. And then as rarity. I suppose this does need to be a public class, card slot, which I guess if I just inherit this from node, that does what it needs to do. Because now Godot can deal with this, right? So instead of replacing this one, I'm just going to real quick make a new exports public Godot collections array card slots, just to see if this works. Missing partial modifier declaration card slot derived from Godot object. What do you want me to do? Oh, partial. I don't know if that's gonna fuck me. But let's find out. Okay, so now we've got card slots in which we have so that doesn't quite do what it needs to do, does it? Does in the class itself, like both of those need to be exported as well? Let's reload this. Yeah, no, that doesn't work, does it? Because now it's inheriting from node. So it's not showing the things that are in the class. It just wants me to put in a node here, doesn't it? Yes, it does. So that's not a solution. Godot export struct. I mean, if I can't export a struct, that is like actually kind of an issue. So this guy says that instead of maybe making card slots a node, I should make it a resource. But I think that's going to end up with... Yeah, so now it just requires me to put in a resource. So that's not helpful. That's not what I want to do. Because then I still need to make a resource for every card combination. So that doesn't fucking make it any better. Just returns me to where I was before. From the property of field to sharpen the editor, use export. Yeah, okay, but that's not the question, is it now? There's no structs, so no. Maybe not in GD language, but this is I'm using C#, so yeah, it just seems like maybe it's a limitation. Could you be looking for this? Let's see. Exported properties, basic use. I just want an array where I get to pass in 2 values for every entry. Like that seems like pretty basic shit. I'm sure that's like a me thing. Exporting enums, yes. I know I can export an enum. Exporting collections. As explained, the C# variant documentation, only C# arrays and collections defined in the Godot collections namespace are variant compatible. Therefore, the only types that can be exported. Okay, so I need to find the Godot.collections namespace and define them there. Okay, let's do that. Let's try to do that anyway. So Godot.collections. Yeah, I was afraid something like that might happen. It's probably somewhere in here. But since my project is fucking broken, I don't think I'm going to be able to easily find that. I'm going to try making a dictionary. I don't know if this is going to work. It's really like... Again, this is not a solution. Because you should just be able to make an exposed... whatchamacallit? You should just be able to like make something that exposes like multiple values, like a class or a struct. Like that's the idea of a struct. And it's having some real fucking issues with that. Yeah, so that's not a solution. I didn't think that it would be. Exporting C# arrays. Let's see. C# arrays exportable as long as they are variant compatible type. So if I can just add to like new variant compatible types. If you just tell me what file I need to be in. All the built-in types except decimal and int and uint, string, classes derived from Godot objects, collections defined in Godot.collections namespace. Full list of variant types in C# is very long. For detailed explanation of variants in general, see the variant documentation page. Yeah, that doesn't really help. I don't know, man. This kind of feels like a pretty valid reason to say, yeah, this is just... Like, this is actually a make it or break it issue for me. There might still be something that I'm like not getting, that I don't understand, that allows me to export like a set of variables like this. But if I have to work around it by making like separate arrays that all like have their own like indexes and their own values, and then I have to like pull a little bit from this array and a little bit from that array, and like that's not workable. Like I just straight up don't want to do that. Export struct-like objects for arrays. Is this to do with Godot? Just on Stack Overflow, so that's always a good thing to check. I don't think this is even Godot related. Oh no, it is Godot related. Okay. The array of resources problem. Exporting arrays, migrating problem with an add-on, proper solution. List of structs in Inspector Godot C#. As you found out, you're able to export an array of custom class if it extends resource. Yes, again. But that doesn't help me. There's currently no way to make the inspector work with struct types. So that's just fucked. So, Hey, maybe like maybe don't fireworks. What the fuck is wrong with you? Seriously, dude. I'm just gonna sit here until they're done. And a project that worked for me in the past with arrays with custom resources is to make the script run in editor, i.e. with tool, and then have a setter and a definer for the exported property. Yeah, all those hacky ass workarounds. Like I should, like, guys watching this, like the handful of people that are still left. Like, am I wrong in the fact that this seems like pretty basic shit that you need to be able to do? Like, am I being unreasonable expecting to be able to export a struct into the like details panel? Because I honestly don't feel like that's an unreasonable thing to be able to want to do. I understand why it might be a pain from like Godot's development perspective to support that. I fully get that it is like not trivial to implement. That's not what I'm asking. Like as a like engine user, I feel like this is totally reasonable to expect an engine to be able to do. No, you're not. Thank you. Okay, so I'm not going that mad. I guess what we do is we just make 2 arrays. Like I want to keep on going with this project. I'm not going to just pull the plug because Godot doesn't allow me to do something that should just be like basic shit. But I guess that means that we're going to go with the 2 array route, which is dog shit. C# is kind of a second-class citizen if you want to view it in the editor. So my question is, if I wanted to do something like this, because it seems like GD script doesn't have structs in general, which is probably why C# can't export them, because GD script doesn't like understand them and support them. So because GD script can't do it, the editor can't do it, so you can't export them from C#. That is what I'm getting out of this. Which is kind of fair. But then, if I was using GD scripts, right? How would I, like, aside from like the whole struct thing, I want to be able to do it with a struct or with a class, preferably, but I can't do that. That is, well, no, that is not fine, but that's the world we live in. But if I want to, again, just make an array where if I add a new index and a new item to the array, I get 2 fields to fill in. Like, is that possible in the first place? Is there another way to do what I want this thing to do? Because if there's another way, I still think that's bullshit, but I'll just do it that way. Like, there's plenty of things that are bullshit in Unreal that I just deal with. Like, no engine is perfect. Like, every engine has bullshit stuff in it. I think this is, like, double bullshit. Because this doesn't seem very niche. This seems like most most of my code structure would probably, like, just implode if I wanted to do it in Godot because of this. But if there is a reasonable alternative way to do this, yeah. That's right, Godot was built with GD script in mind first and foremost, which is fair. Again, I understand that. That's fair. But then I think my problem isn't so much with the fact that C# is a second-class citizen, because like you probably should just then be using GD scripts if you want to use Godot. I get that. But my issue then more so is with the fact that like the outputs that I'm wanting here doesn't seem possible in GD scripts either. Which again, having an array with just 2 fields per index doesn't seem like an unreasonable, weird thing to ask for. But I suppose I don't necessarily need... Okay, so this is where we're going with this, right? I suppose, like, for testing purposes, I'm using Godot collections at the moment. But if I don't export this, and this is where we're, like, going with this, right? If I don't export this and I do make a struct, I can still, like, programmatically set everything. I just can't access it in the editor. So I guess that is what we're going to be doing. So structs, like card slots. And that's going to require me to, again, create a whole bunch of changes to my code, which is what caused problems in the first place. But public card resource and card rarity. That is, yep, that's what we want. So I guess for now, for like testing purposes, what we do is no, I don't really want to do it that way. So we just kind of get rid of this, right? We just kind of get rid of this, and we make a new public without caps lock, pretty please. Public card slots array that we call card slots. I'm calling it specifically card slots and not just cards again, so that it doesn't start complaining about not being able to convert it. It will just start complaining about a variable not existing. I think that's going to be easier to troubleshoot. Again, if my IntelliSense and my linking worked, but it doesn't. But this will still work, right? Because like the C# code itself will still recognize this. It's just that I can't edit this within Godot now, which... Hey, maybe a year from now, they will have support for that. Because obviously they have like a bunch of new users and like a bunch of money for development coming in since the whole Unity thing. And like this is the kind of thing where you're like, okay, but like until not too long ago, this was a pretty niche engine and it's like very much exploded somewhat recently still in the grand scheme of things. So let's give them a little bit of time. Let's give them a little bit of time to get this sorted and get this working. But this is a feature that needs to be there. The way you're doing it now looks like I was doing it in my game. I put the res in a container and use the container. So yeah, the way that I would, if I now still want to be able to do it in editor, right? The way that I would probably just do this is make a card resource cards and a card rarity rarities. Again, as two separate arrays. And then probably if I was writing this from scratch, because if we're going to do that now, we might as well just keep it this way. You know what? I'm just going to do it like this. Because it's going to be messy anyway. So let's just do it like this. Yeah, I don't like it, but working code is still working code, right? And this will at least allow me to like debug and troubleshoot and test inside of the editor. Maybe we'll circle around to this and like refactor this into like non-stupid code when we have something that like generates cards for us, like in real time on runtime. At which point we don't need to interact with it in the editor anymore. We can do like a whole struct thing, but we need to like rewrite quite a lot of things. And frankly, I'm just not going to refactor things if my highlighting and my IntelliSense isn't working, because that seems like a very bad idea. How many mushrooms can you eat in 24 hours? Well, ask that to the developers of Godot, who apparently don't think it's necessary to be able to export structs, because they probably ate a lot. Like a lot. fuck do you mean card rarity is not supported? Oh, that, yeah, no, hold on, let's Control Z all the way through this, because these need to be collections, right? Like Godot collections. It's really funny though that it does, you can just export an array of enums, and I'm aware that enums is, like, these are effectively just like integers, or bytes even. So they're a lot less complicated than structs, but it doesn't have any problem with fucking these. So it's fine with that. I don't like math. Bad time to be a programmer if you don't like math. Oh my god, I'm sorry I hit the microphone. Global namespace already contains a definition for card slots. Oh yeah, that's because there's... Wow. Yeah, it's got two of them, doesn't it? Both of them can fuck off because I'm not using those anymore. Yeah, okay. So it looks like we're not doing a lot of stuff today, aside from me bitching about things that don't work. But again, I do feel like I'm validated a little bit in complaining about the things that I'm complaining about. But I'm also just generally not in a great mood today. So do keep that in mind. Like, I am just a little annoyed at the world today. So things not going right, I might be a little bit more annoyed at them than I usually would be. I am in deep emotional pain toward Godot. Very much so. Well, I guess that means that what we should do is we should make a function that randomly generates cards. Because then we can get rid of this entire thing and we can start testing with how the game itself is going to work. So at least we have a thing to do. The question is, where are we going to put that? I think we need to put that on its own component. Because only, well, actually, no, because the only thing that's going to need to be able to generate cards is... It's a very good question. What is going to generate the cards? I guess what we should have is... Yeah, so the idea that I had, right, because we're making like a TCG tycoon, the idea that I had is that you can buy booster packs, like, as your inventory, but then you as a shop owner get to decide, do I just want to sell these booster packs at a markup? So you buy them for like $2 and you sell them for like $3.50, right? Or you as the card shop owner can choose, no, I'm going to unpack these booster packs and see if there's any valuable cards in these. Which effectively just makes this Unpacking Simulator 2024. Well, that's the fun part about a TCG, right? The fun part about a TCG, in my opinion, is booster pack openings. Like, I don't care about Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, at all these days. I used to be quite into it when I was younger. The modern rule set is so fucking bogus that I don't care. But I still really like booster pack openings. Same with the Pokemon trading card game. I haven't played the Pokemon TCG in probably 15 years, maybe. It's still really, like, exciting, even more so with Pokemon, because I do know, like, every single Pokemon that exists, more or less, still. Because I still like the games. Which is very Stockholm Syndrome, but that's a topic for another day. Just, like, watching people open card packs is still very fun, because I know all the Pokemon, and I know, oh, they're getting a holographic of this. Well, that's very exciting. So that's kind of what I want to lean on. That said, though, I'm going to need to do like a lot of math in order for that to work out properly, because if the average like price you can sell a booster pack for is like $350, the average pool, if you open a booster pack, should also be around that price, so that it's not always worse or always better to open a pack. So it should probably be slightly under it. Or slightly over it. I'm not entirely sure from like a game design perspective yet, but that's kind of what I want to do. So I want to make a booster pack that has a function that, like, when you open it, yeah. So what I think I want to do is I want to make a copy of the card scene for now. So can we just copy that? That's not what I want to do. I want to make a duplicate of this. Can you just duplicate? And we'll call this like booster pack scene as a base to work off. And we'll get like a different image for this at some point, I'm sure. But for now, let's just see. Can we like texture maybe? Material. Visibility. Modulate. Let's just make this like very dark, so that I have a visual difference on this is a booster pack. From there, instead of having the card scripts on this, we're just going to make a new script for this, and this will be C#. Yeah, this will be booster pack script. And this will have a void generate cards. Generate 5 random cards. Let's see. Now the question is, that probably shouldn't be a void. What I think we should do, actually, is we probably should make this a card array that it returns. Let's give Copilot another shot, because I just changed my mind on what they should do. So cards equals new cards 5. Do we need to like instantiate this through Godot system, or will this work? I guess it should work, right? Because this just generates them, like the info for them. Yes. Let's just assume for shits and giggles that it does. And then when we click on, for now, that's just when we click on it. We'll take a look at this later on how we should work with a singleton. I'm just going to do it this way. When we click on this, we don't want to emit a signal. We want to... that's a good fucking question, isn't it? I guess what we want to do... is... ideally, you would even show them one at a time. Okay, so I have an ID. Do I have an ID? My brain is not working. Okay, we've got our card name, our card text. We don't need all this, I don't think. So let's get rid of all this, because this is just like we just need we just need our like booster back. Then when we click on this, we generate 5 cards. And we just display them one at a time. So what I probably want to do is I want to get this guy a member variable for the cards. So like cards array, and then let's put this back to being void, and then instead of doing all that stuff, what we'll do is member cards dot add card, and I guess we change this to instantiate it with Godot system, because again, yeah, that makes a lot more sense, because we need it to be a card scene and stuff like that as well. So we have card card equals card scene. Sure, that was a packed scene, I believe. I'm so far gone at the moment that I don't even know. Export is with a capital E, the rest not capital. Okay, thank you. So it instantiates them but doesn't add them yet. But now we do have an array with things that are instantiated, so they are generated, they do exist. And I guess in some place we're going to need to have a list of all the card resources. That these booster packs can pull from. Is there a convenient way in Godot to make something like a data table, or should I just make an array, make a card resource loader? So that will presumably then take in like a directory and load all those resources into like an array. Godot resource loader. It's like the asset manager in Unreal, right? That's kind of what we're going for, I'm assuming. Like, I'm not reading this entire fucking page to do that. Okay, exists. String path, string type hint, returns whether a recognized resource exists on a given path. inherits objects. So can I just like make, like, is it just like, do I need to make a specific class to do that, or is that, can I just make a, like a, I guess we want it to be exported, like resource loader. Be really helpful if we had a working fucking VS Code here. Let's just see if it builds. Argument missing. That's probably my bad. Yeah, that's my bad. Let's just comment that out for now. But the rest of the file didn't break. Now it did. Type of exported fields not supported. Booster pack.loader cannot declare variable static sort loader. Namespace cards could not be found. Yeah, so it's the only thing that I really care about is this. So that's not the way to do it. Let's say make a class to do your resource loading, so it can be gotten from anywhere. Uh, 17-minute video. We're not going to watch that. Yeah, without the code working with me here, this is like actually not feasible to work with. Like part of my issues that I'm having here today probably ought to do with that as well. Okay, so I've got a video here. So we've got private const string root path, that's good. Then we've got image display, audio stream display. On ready, get node, on press image, resource load utils dot load image display path dot join. So that is specifically a image loading thing. So yeah, I think it might be kind of tricky to like load in custom resources that easily, because it seems like the way it loads in resources is like pre-built. Or maybe not, maybe I'm just misunderstanding it. I've been doing quite a, for quite a while now, simply because it makes code so much cleaner and easier to read. And agree to disagree. But I'm not quite sure if this is bad practice. I started doing it because I saw some code written in GDScript when I used preload, which isn't a thing in C#. Yet another thing. Does using resource loader.load at the top of your script declare a packed scene variable affects negative performance in any way of the game. Packed scene chicken. Okay, so what it seems to be doing is the way that would work would be card resource and that's why you can, yeah, if you make it a class, you can get it from anywhere. That's what you're saying. Okay. That's probably a good idea. But at that rate, like maybe I just make a resource that takes in other card resources, and I just make my own, like, and it just has like an array of card resources, and just effectively like make my own like one slot data table with that. That might make more sense. It loads everything into memory in bulk, but it's like, it's not that big a deal, I don't think. Not for what we're doing right here. I don't care. I've like throughout this stream, I've kind of decided that, you know what, if I'm doing something 2D, Unity can have my money. I think. Yeah, so the only issue with that would be that that would load everything into memory, right? Like if I have a master resource that just is effectively an array with all my card resources in it, the moment I start using that master resource, it just everything gets like dumped into memory, like every single card resource. Or is C# smart enough not to do that? Anyway, let's try doing it this way anyway. So we like load all prefabs cards. So that's the ID. So we can do that. But hold on, we can export that because we've exported card resources before. So I want to see whether or not this works is the thing. We might need to do that through collections. Invalid in class. Did I do this outside the class? No, I didn't. Can you not do that there? That makes sense, actually, yeah. So I guess we just do that. Oh, hold on, card resource. Let's copy this over real quick, and then instead of doing this, we'll do Godot.collection card resource cards, and then we'll say cards equals that, right? Is it just called loader? I kind of doubt that it is. Oh, that's why. As Godot collections array card resource. So maybe that'll work. The type namespace cards could not be found. What even are we talking about? What even are we talking about? Type of namespace cards. Oh. Because it's a card, not cards. Godot resource to Godot via reference conversion, box typing. Yeah, so it doesn't like doing this, does it? You know, I've said it a couple of times in this stream. I have stopped caring. The way we're going to do this is quite simply by making a new resource. And we're just going to make a master resource. I'm going to check real quick if Godot has data tables. Godot data table. If it has built-in data tables, I'll just use those. It looks like it might not. So yeah, just making a master resource is probably the easiest way to do that. So that would be a new script inheriting from let's call this cards list. Inherits from resource. And all that this is going to be is just exports, Godot collections, card resource cards. That's literally everything it needs to be. Actually, we might as well make this a global class so that we can properly make one. Card does not add definition. What the hell are you talking about? Just gonna ignore that for now. Booster pack does not contain definition for on card clicked. Guess fucking what? Now it does. You what? Oh, that's it. You know what? There's not a function, I think that's supposed to be like a signal, which is just Godot's weird-ass implementation of delegates. Just gonna comment that out, we'll worry about that later. All that I need in my life right now is to make a cards list. Cards list. Cards. Then we have, I think it's in resources probably, right? Cards, test cards. Test card 2. Test card 3. So now we have an asset that just holds all my cards. I wish Microsoft would put money into Godot again for another C# push. That's why they added C# in the first place. Yeah, me too. I've been a little iffy running into a couple of things where I'm like, I don't know if there's like a me problem or a Godot problem or a C# problem, but I'm going to group the latter two together. Or I'm just still trying to figure out the engine. I think at this point there's not going to be a last stream. I want to give it at least like one more stream where I'm like in a slightly better mood. Because again, I am aware that I am like not in a great like headspace tonight. So when I run into issues, I might be like overreacting a little bit to how much it sucks. But it also feels like we're running into a few things where I'm like, I don't know, man. I feel like we're running up against the rough edges of the engine here, and like the whole thesis statement for this project was: is it worth learning more about Godot instead of relying on Unreal's community upkeep for the 2D plugin that is no longer officially supported, but there's still really good community support for it? And I think at this point my answer is no. I think I would rather develop a 2D game still inside of Unreal Engine than Godot, is what I'm getting to at this point. Yeah, that's the thing, right? I want to like Godot. I really do. Because, like, it's sympathetic. It's open source. It's not Unity, which is always a plus. Well, I'm dissing Unity a little bit too much. I don't really have anything against Unity. Like the stunt they pulled earlier this year, or like at the end of last year, I don't even remember at this point, was bullshit. But like every big company pulls some bullshit sometimes, and we shouldn't hate every company forever, except if it's EA, in which case you should. But I don't think, from my experience here, I don't think Godot is quite it. And that's really sad. And I still am like considering that it is me missing something. And it very likely is. Like there is a really good chance that it is. Because I think the developers of like Slay Spire, and a couple of other like pretty big indie studios, they're like, we made something in Godot and we loved it. And I can't imagine, like specifically Slay the Spire, right? That is like a complicated version of what I'm making here, like a much more complicated version of what I'm making here. So whatever they made in Godot surely would have had to run into the same issues as I am running into right now. Yeah, so I think, to be 1000% fair to Godot, I shouldn't be bitching too much about it right now without having IntelliSense. Because that is kind of screwing me as well. So, at the very least, what we're going to do is, I've been thinking about this anyway, I think the next week of streams, so that is Tuesday, Thursday, I'm not going to work on my Unreal project. I'm going to be working on this project. And through what we talked about right now here today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Rider, because I want to get that up and running with Godot, see if that fixes my IntelliSense issues, and if that just like ends up working, which is also a great opportunity for me to try Rider with Unreal as well, because people are absolutely like mad happy with that. I don't quite understand what is unique about it. From what I understand is it allows you to like interface with blueprint level stuff in C++, which is kind of cool if that is a thing that you can do. Because in the end, like when it gets compiled, it all gets compiled like through C++, like straight into machine code, right? So I assume that should be possible, and that is what I understand Rider for Unreal to be able to do. And if it can do that, that does solve some like architectural issues that I've been having. I'm not gonna lie, because sometimes it is really annoying when I'm like, oh, I just grabbed that. Oh fuck, that's something I made on Blueprint. I can't access that, right? So yeah. The only real problem I've been having is the coding editor, hit compile my game to 20. Oh yeah, that is not good if you have to compile every single time. That is something that I do like about like working with this. Like unless I like have to put in like an export which requires a rebuild, I can just change a line of code, close this down, and get right back into it. Compared to Unreal, if I need to change something in Unreal in my C++ code, it doesn't take long, but it takes like 4 or 5 seconds to recompile the class that I just changed with live coding. And then live coding itself tends to be kind of unstable. So again, as I've been saying, Unreal is not a perfect engine, but by no means. There's a few issues with Unreal that I am maybe not the hugest fan of at times. So far be it from me to say that, hey, I've run into some issues here with Godot, so Godot sucks, Unreal rules. But the issues with Unreal are mostly a user experience thing, and not a I literally cannot do a somewhat basic programming concept kind of thing. So I do think that they're not exactly equal problems, if you catch my meaning, but I don't know. I sent you an image on Discord on the Write C# plugin to get. That is good to know. I know you had a discount on Writer after 3 years. You get a 40% discount in price, 20% discount. Oh, that's kind of cool. My compile times in Unreal are faster than in Unity. How does that? Wow. Okay, that is the first time I've heard anybody say that. That is very interesting. Then again, I suppose it might be like an optimization thing, right? With the difference between C++ and C#. Maybe Unreal just uses, because it uses C++, it uses a different compiler that maybe uses like multi-threading better. I don't know. So yeah, my compile times in Unreal are also not that bad, but I hear people like bitch about that a lot, which is fair because, again, it takes 3, 4, 5 seconds for me to recompile my average class when I change something. But I am on a very fast CPU, so that would probably like scale up to probably like double or triple that for a lot of people. And every time you change something, recompiling like 10 to 15 seconds, that gets old real quick. All that said, though, is I think we're going to just kind of okay, so what I want to I want to do I want to do a thing. So the booster pack scene that we have here, this booster pack, I want to add in the things that I just made at least. So we want to add a like export variable for this, which is a like cards list. So we can just get something random. I just used the Unreal build shortcut because we were talking about Unreal so much. Oh yeah, no, I figured you meant 7950 X3D. There isn't even a 7050 X3D, right? The only X3D thing that exists is the 79. Is there 78 as well? Maybe. They're high-end CPUs. That's all I know. So yeah, we have our cards list, which is like somewhere the fuck down here. And then I guess like the card scene we need to put in as well, which is somewhere in my prefabs, surely. Like even if it, okay, so the thing is, next week we're going to definitely try using Godot a little bit more with Rider. If we don't end up finishing, well, finishing is maybe a big word, like when is this game going to be finished? If we don't end up pulling through with Godot, I kind of feel like I still want to try to make this comparison fair. I kind of feel like I want to try making this in Unreal's 2D system instead. To try to figure out if I run into similar issues, other issues that are equally annoying, equally big. Because like I'm shitting on Godot right now, but I feel like if I'm going to say, nah, I probably want to do this in Unreal, even if it is 2D, I probably should give that a try as well. So yeah, I think maybe next week when IntelliSense works and I'm using Rider, everything will work like a charm and I'm going to be like very pro Godot again. But even if we end up deciding like, nah, actually I probably am going to just stay the fuck away from this for a while, I think that shouldn't be the end of this experiment, of this game. I do feel like whenever I turn this into a video, I'm going to piss off a lot of people. Which, to be fair, the last time I turned Unreal versus other engine into a video and I pissed off a lot of people, I also made like a lot of money. So maybe that's not a bad thing. I think there's things that Unity can do to make it faster, like assembly. definitions, but I think I used them wrong because it never helps. Yeah. It's been a long time since I used Unity, so I can't really weigh on that too much. Where is my card scene? I think it's this. That's resource cards. I don't think I need that anymore. Why can I not? Oh, because that's a fucking script. I'm an idiot. It's in my prefabs. That's why. Objects, card scene. There we go. And then the cards themselves don't need to be exported, I don't think, right? So we've got booster pack. We've got our Godot collection cards. So that can just be a card array. Yeah, that can just be a card resource array. Oh, that's what this is, I think. Yeah, this is card. No, it's not. Oh no, but I only need this, right? Because this already holds a card resource in it. Yes, it does. I mean, that video got like, I don't know, it's at like 250,000 views or something stupid like that right now. And it's also got like, because it was Unity versus Unreal, it's also got like really good CPM. Oh, somebody literally commented on this 5 hours ago. Which is really good. Because I can go to the analytics now. Yeah, so, okay, it's only got about 145,000 views. So it's less than I thought. Yeah, okay, so I read about this as well. Like, somebody just commented on my Unity Unreal video. Unreal now forces political correctness on people. You can't use words like slave master, black, or forced gender. Stupid. And later they're going to charge for that ultra-realistic engine. I don't see a world where they let you use free. Stay with Unity or make your own engine. This is just misinformation, right? Like, I saw an Asmongold video about this, with everybody being, like, enraged about the wokeism at Epic Games. This is just not true. Like, it might be true internally that they're trying to, like, change their nomenclature internally. This is not, like, terms of service. Like, this is dumb. Like, this is dumb to the point where I'm going to delete this comment. Because this is just like, you're just false information. This is just not true. Like, I do also think that's a little bit like performative activism on Epic's part to say, hey, internally, we're going to change our nomenclature to not use like blacklist, whitelist, and not to gender non-gendered things. Like, yeah, that's performative activism that doesn't actually fucking accomplish anything. But then there's like a lot of like super fringe right-wing idiots. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of left-wing idiots as well. I don't want to make this like a political thing. That just get enraged whenever anything to do with like words gets even like talked about. I think both sides of this argument suck, to be very clear. I think that them doing it internally, like, they do them, whatever. They're clearly just trying to get some, like, good vibes PR. And that's pretty much all there is to it. I don't believe for a second that this actually, like, matters in any way, shape, or form. Like, there's nothing that they accomplish with this, other than getting some eyeballs on them. But then the people getting fucking outraged over it are, like, equally insane. Like, they saw... I'm certain that, like, 95% of people getting pissed off about this saw the one single Asmongold clip that I did. and got angry because of it. Without a second of critical thinking, without half a second of actually like Googling this for research. Because Epic is not going to, and Epic cannot enforce how you like name your variables in your own fucking code. Right? That's just not how this works. Anyway, sorry for going on a like lightly political rant there, but again, I think both sides of this argument are kind of stupid, which makes me sound very centrist, I know, but in this case, both sides of this argument are kind of stupid. Anyway, let's go back here, because now we can set this card info to a random thing from our cards list. So that's just card list like dot random. That should be a thing, right? It's not internal though. It's literally Epic's coding practices page. I'm going to look this up because I might have been mistaken here. But even if Epic coding practice. Because if it is, that does make a difference. Still, that's like not. It's not like a terms of service thing, but at Epic Games we have simple coding standards and conventions. This document reflects the state of Epic Games' current coding standards. So yeah, this is what they internally use. They just communicate it to the outside world, so that other programmers know what they're looking at. Coding conventions are important for programmers for several reasons. I'm going to actually put this up on my main monitor so that we can look at it. 80% of lifetime cost of a piece of software goes into maintenance. Hardly any software is maintained original author. Copyright notice, naming conventions. Like this is the Epic Games coding standard page. Let's just look for gender. Gender inclusiveness. Okay. Refers to hypothetical people as they, them, their, even in singular. Refers to anything, not a person, as it. For example, a module, a plugin, a client. Do not use metaphors or similar reinforced stereotype. Example include contrasts like black and white, blacklist and whitelist. Okay, I mean, to be fair, I think that there's like two sides to this. But do not use words that refer to historical trauma. This is very like performative. Look at us being goody two shoes. I agree with that. But I also think they have like a point in some of this, like master and slave not being used and nuke. Like this is nonsense. This is utter nonsense. Like, I mean, I personally probably would prefer parent and child as well. But like there is definitely like master and slave is like this thing giving orders to that thing. Like has different connotations than child parent, right? So like using master and slave as naming conventions makes sense. So you definitely should where that makes sense. Effectively like server and client is what this is, right? I have no idea where in normal coding practices you would use the word nuke, to be honest. Well, I suppose if you destroy like everything under a certain like branch or something, you would nuke something. But that has a place in an established meaning. So like this is bullshit. I think that there's like gender inclusiveness thing. The fact that it's called gender inclusiveness is kind of triggering for people who are offended by transgender people. I think that this is just also just good coding practice, right? Like, if you can just refer to things that are genderless as they, them, there. This is not a gender thing. This is just an English language thing. So, like, this kind of makes sense to me. The same thing as, like, this is, like, why does this need to be even set? Refer to anything that's not a person as an it. For example, a module, a plugin, a function, a client, a server. Who the fuck wasn't already doing this? If a single hypothetical person is... Yeah, okay, but that... Yeah, okay, this is a question of interpretation and kind of good faith versus bad faith, if I'm being honest with you. A hypothetical person is a person that doesn't fucking exist. So they don't have a gender. So you refer to them as something gender neutral. You can argue that, like, you can say, like, hypothetical, like, a fictional person is hypothetical and they very much do have a gender, so you refer to them as he or her. I don't know. I don't think that this particularly is the problem. There's a lot of things here that are bullshit, don't get me wrong. I think even Stephen is more so getting to the heart of this. Like, why is this here? Why did they feel the need to communicate this? Because, again, I keep coming back to this line. Refers to anything that's not a person as it and its. Example, module, plugin, function, client, server, and any other software or hardware components. I don't know that anybody has been calling their modules him or her. Like, nobody is assigning gender names, pronouns to their fucking plugins. That's just not a thing that people do. So, like, why do we need to specify this on your page? Like, this is nothingness. Like, this doesn't add anything into the world. No, but that's the thing, though. You're just wrong there. Like, they, them is not just plural. Like, they, them being used as used to a person that you know who it is, that is a relatively new thing, and you can think about that what you will. I honestly do not give a shit. But if you're referring to somebody that you don't know who it is, a hypothetical person, like, if you... The example that I often hear is, like, if you found somebody's, like, wallet on the street, you would think, hey, they lost their wallet. This is their wallet. Like, if you don't know if somebody is a dude or a girl, let's not talk about, like, anything in between, because, again, I don't give a shit. You refer to somebody as they, them, there. That is just English grammar. Disney investing 1.5 billion into Epic. You see, there you have a point. This feels very Disney. I'm going to agree with you there. Because, if nothing else, Disney loves their performative, meaningless, like, supportive mumbo-jumbo that doesn't actually, like, do anything aside from annoy a bunch of people. Find me a grammar that says that. Open any fucking book. Open Google. Like, that's... I agree that this particular page doesn't make sense. Like, I changed quite a bit of my opinion on what I heard here, because I still think that people taken out of context, because they're just not, like, enforcing you to do anything. This is just Epic publishing how they name their things. But I think that it's still bullshit. Don't get me wrong. But let's like stay honest here. The person lost their wallet, not they them. That is just because, I'm going to be real with you here, that is just because you're trying to avoid using they them, because that is literally how English works. But this is just a PR thing. I 1000% agree. And I don't know why they thought this was a good idea. And I'm going to agree with even Steven. It's like, I'm not going to say that Disney told them to do this, but I feel like this feels like a Disney thing. This very much, like, I hadn't considered that before, but this feels like the same kind of bullshit that Disney does. And frankly, like, whether or not you, again, I don't want to make this a political thing, like, right? Because whether you are left or right leaning about this, I don't think that, like, identity, sexuality, whatever, should be a political thing to begin with, but here we are. Which are you on doesn't matter. This should be bad. Because if you're like against inclusiveness and prefer pronouns and whatever, which I get it. This is annoying. This is forcing things down your throat that you're not looking for, and nobody wants that. If you're very like pro all this shit, you should also be annoyed by this, because this doesn't accomplish anything. This isn't actual inclusiveness. This is PR. Like, if we compare it like to Disney, the whole situation with, like, I think it was the Lightyear movie where they had like a lesbian couple like have like a quick kiss in the background, and people lost their fucking shit over that. Like, that is a different discussion. That is actual like representation, inclusiveness against actual bigotry. Because if you don't like that, if you don't want that in the background of a movie, like, if there's anybody here watching this who had an issue with that, you can please fuck off. Because gay people exist. They can be in movies, right? This has nothing to do with that. This is entirely performative. I'm certain that this will be enforced if Epic is your publisher. Otherwise, I don't think so. I really don't think so. Like, maybe from like a, like, things that users interact with, maybe. And that would still be bad. Don't get me wrong. Like, I would not be in favor of that. If Epic as a publisher is going to like meddle in your game experience because of this like performative bullshit, I very much doubt that Epic is going to give like two shits about what the code looks like of games that they publish. Like, I honestly, like, I very much doubt that, to be honest with you. Maybe I'll be wrong. And maybe there will be stories over the coming months and years coming out of people saying, hey, Epic was being a bitch about our code because we used gendered pronouns for our variable names. Which would be, like, really weird on Epic's part if they made a problem out of that. Like, I don't disagree with that, to be, like, 1000% clear. Like, that would be really weird and really dumb. But I don't think it's going to get to that level. again, there might be something where all like the user-facing language, they will try to enforce this kind of stuff. I can see that happening more reasonably. Which I'm also not a fan of. Like, I also don't think that it's a problem when a game developer's like, okay, gender option, let's add in a gender neutral one. Because it's literally like a couple extra lines of code. And people can experience a game in a way that makes them feel comfortable that way. Like, nobody is forcing you to choose that gender neutral option. Just by the option being there, you're not being like, nothing's being pushed down your throat. You're not being forced to do anything. So if a developer just decides, hey, I want to add in that as an option, that's cool. That's fine. Totally in favor of that. When Epic starts to like enforce that this needs to be the way that games communicate to their players, that is where things start becoming slightly more problematic. But yeah, again, long story short is, I think that's a little bit stupid and out of place on this page. But people still are taking this out of context. Because people are taking this as Epic is enforcing this onto its developers, people using Unreal Engine, and they're just not. This is just Epic publishing, hey, this is how we code our things. Which, once again, is stupid. Nobody's disputing that. Well, there's a lot of people disputing that, but I am not disputing that. It's stupid that they're putting this attention on that. But people are kind of mad for no reason. The problem is that there is only... Yeah, but that's the thing. You're extrapolating an issue where none exists. Like, the moment we get concrete proof that Epic is enforcing this in any shape onto external developers, that is where we start getting mad. We don't start getting mad at the prospect of maybe this can someday happen. It's good to keep an eye out for it. Again, don't get me wrong. It's good to keep an eye out from it because we now know that this is how Epic deals and they have it on their own public page discussing this. So I'm not saying that there's nothing there. Again, having looked at it, kind of changed my opinion. But I also think that getting mad at something because it might happen sometime in the future, based on a lot of people saying that it might, it is not a productive use of anybody's time. Pushback needs to happen swiftly, otherwise... Yeah, but you're pushing back against something that doesn't exist. That's just not how that works. You can... No, that's not true. That is kind of how that works. You can bully a company into something preemptively. To be fair. You can do that. And that's definitely happening right now, so credit where credit is due. I don't think Epic is going to be enforcing this anytime soon, if they were planning to. But I also think that people are going apeshit over something that doesn't actually exist yet, and might never exist, and was probably not part of the plan to begin with. I don't think that this is a problem that we should be paying attention to. Or rather, that we should be putting so much effort into. It's good to be mindful of things, and the moment Epic starts forcing other people to do stuff, obviously, we need to be worried about that. But if we take, and there's a little whataboutism, but if we take like this and Unity literally like stealing money from developers who don't make money, like that was an actual issue. Like the entire games industry coming together there and saying no was good, very good, very fun moments. This is just people getting mad because they're afraid something might happen. Which, like, especially with the perspective of I've been using this engine for 15 years, I don't want them to start like policing how I can use it or how I can use it, how I have to use it. I can understand that. But let's wait. Let's maintain vigilance for sure. But let's wait with the pitchforks until we actually see this happen. At which point, we do riot. Let me be clear. Like, if that actually ends up happening, fucking riot all over the internet. We don't want that. We don't want Epic to start enforcing this kind of, like, meaningless bullshit. In the same way that we don't want anybody. Like going full American here. I'm not even American. But like that is compelled speech. And we don't do that. If that becomes their terms of service, we make it very clear that we don't do that. And if they maintain, yeah, we switch ship. We go somewhere else. Because that is not okay. Like, if I want to name a variable something horrible, like let's like take like gender and like pronoun stuff out of it. If I want to like make a like enum variable that I call something like Hitler's balls, and their values can be Hitler's left ball or Hitler's right ball. There's no reason to do that. Unless you're like making like Wolfenstein remade or something like that. Like Wolfenstein M-rated. But that's beyond the point whether or not you should do that or whether or not there's a reason to do that. The thing is that I should be able to do that. I should be able to name my variables and my methods and my whatever the fuck I want. Now, within the context of what this actually should be about, which is like coding standard practices, there should be practices when you're working within a team. Like, we should all be naming things within like the same naming convention and stuff like that. But that doesn't really have to do with any of this other bullshit. You can shoot his balls off. I mean, I'm not saying that game would sell very well, but I think that game, if it got onto Steam in the first place, I think Steam has like a lot of porn games these days anyway, so you probably would get away with it. I think shooting Hitler in the balls Simulator 2024 would sell a few copies. I think that would sell a few copies. And it would take like an hour to make in Unreal Engine, so... Well, not an hour, but like you could do that as a game jam game. We kind of lost the plot there, didn't we? We kind of lost the plot there. Yeah, I think we probably should just call it there because we have... okay, now we do want to do one more thing. Is I want to generate cards. We do all that. And then, so on ready, what I want to do is I want to, like, generate cards so that our card array has some values. Oh, this was an issue, right? This didn't have, like, an add function or something shitty like that. But it is an array. It should have an add function. Did I fix that yet? Was that a typo? No. No definition for random. My goodness. Okay, let's look this up in an actually like relevant search. Because like C# array random should be a thing, right? Is that not a thing? Oh, that's kind of bullshit. Okay, in that case we get a let's see, card resource. Yeah, but random doesn't work. So that's a capital L. So the length. Let's see what Copilot does here. Get random card from card lists. Random card. That would be nice if you just got a random card delivered to your door. Yeah, Copilot doesn't do shit, does it? Normal arrays do not have add. That is wild. Didn't know that. Huh. I went flat to dairy. That has add. That's because I made it. So then if, just like in theory, if I used Godot.collections what was it? .array and then of type card instead. I don't know why it suddenly decided to syntax highlight that, but sure. Does that have a random in it? Oh, hold on. No, but hold on. That is not a normal array. Card list. Because card list is already a Godot collection array. So that should have, like, I am sure that Godot arrays have, like, Godot array random. How do I pick a random element from array? Surely that's a thing. Array.pick.random. You know, that's fair. I've been bitching a lot about Godot's weird stuff today. But a function called pickRandom, that's kind of fair. So I don't know what else I just fucked up. Oh, yeah, the cards array. No, we want to keep that. We definitely want to keep that. So this is like card array cards, which, oh, but then we don't have an add function. You know what probably has an add function, and that's what we're probably doing with this. It's this. Sure that this has an adding function, right? Array add, Control F, add. Push front. Oh, that's actually kind of nice that you can do that. It has a push front and a push back, so you can add something in the front or in the back of an array. That's nice. Push front Well, no, we want to add them in the back, I think. So we want to like push back. It actually doesn't matter. For the most part, I don't think. No one underscores. Oh, that's yeah. No, yeah. So it's push back and pick random with like just normal, whatever this is called again. You should just go get Rider so you don't explode. I will, but I just I was going to in the middle of the stream, and then we got on a rant about other stuff, and then we got back into Godot, and then we started talking about fucking pronouns, which I really just don't give a shit about. But we did talk about them for like 45 minutes. Because again, both sides of the argument tend to overextend themselves a little bit, I think. But let's not get back on that right now. So we're not going to get Rider today, but I will get and install and set up Rider for the next stream, I think. Because this is making my experience much worse than it needs to be. And that doesn't reflect nicely on Godot. And that's not fair against Godot, because that is probably like a Visual Studio thing. That's probably like a me thing. Because I've had not a lot of people with this issue. Like everybody that I've seen with this issue are like commenting under a video like, oh, this solved it for me, and it didn't solve it for me. So this seems like an issue that I specifically am having. Big random doesn't exist. We heard some explosions earlier. That was Epic trying to silence me. Trying to fucking slander them. Okay. C# instead of Godot scripts. I keep forgetting that. Random. Array.pick random. You wanna bet that that's a fucking function? Like, Costless is an array, right? No, it's not. That's why. Yeah, so it's costless.cards.pick_random. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, protection issue. That also makes sense. Let's make that public. Does not contain a definition for pushback. Yeah, sure about that. It doesn't give you code snippets for C# for those functions. That is... what the fuck? What the actual fuck? Godot array add. Insert and append. What the fuck is this all about? Add in C#. Arrays in C#. You want to use add, so it does have add. Fucking hell. Okay, we have pushback. Just add. Add is in Godot. I don't know, man. That does fix that. And this still is referring to a signal that doesn't exist, so that makes sense. Or a function that doesn't exist. I don't know. Okay, everything can build now. So how are we going to test this? keep switching to my IDE to look. Man, you're being my IntelliSense today, man. Sorry, I mean person. So don't worry about it being a little delayed. Don't worry about that, because you are so much more useful than Godot's actual docs. And Godot's documentation is good. It's just it has the two languages competing on the same page, and that makes it a little bit confusing to look through. Okay, so we also want rarity. Do enums like have a random thing built in? Probably not, right? Would be kind of neat if they did. Let's check that, because this is just a C# thing. So C# enum random. Is that a thing that we can easily do? Enum.getValues to retrieve. Okay, so we can very easily rarity.get what did it say? Get values, right? Yeah. Get values. I'm just going to hardcode this, to be honest with you. Like rarity is will that work? Because that's kind of neat if that works. It seems like it should work. And then you add to where you were using the collection. C# doesn't normally have add arrays. Oh, in C#, yeah, that's true, right? Because if you want to add, like, if you want a dynamic array that's a list and not an array, because an array is like a static amount. That's true. I forgot about that. That's fair. So this should now pick a random card with a random rarity, or generate it and add it to the cards array. And then that cards array, we can probably... How are we going to do that? I guess what we can do is we can, in the... Just in here for now. Just drag it in. Honestly, just so that it exists, to be honest. And what we'll do instead is on the player's inventory is we will, just for testing purposes, again, I'm just wanting to test this at the moment. So we have our array.cards and array.rarities. So if we take that, we'll do it the other way around, actually. That makes a lot more sense. If we have an inventory on our booster pack that it applies itself to. This is temporary code, I should point out. But again, unless something significantly changes when I'm using Rider next week, we're not going to continue too much longer with Godot. And we'll just like restart this a little bit cleaner in Unreal. Just to finish off the project, right? So this will be export inventory, and then generate cards. We will say our inventory dots. What is it called again? Oh yeah, we probably want to do that with a for loop. For each loop, rather. For each card and cards. Get our inventory dot cards add, and then inventory dot rarities dot add. So that is card and cards. This doesn't have a rarity. Does it have a rarity? Do these have rarity on it? It doesn't have rarity on it, so I don't know what the fuck you're talking about there. But now that we have it this way, they probably should. So let's make a public rarity. And then our rarity will be set to rarity. Okay, so it generates cards and then puts those cards into the array of the inventory that it is getting as its value. So then in the player, we're getting there. We're getting there. My brain's super dead, but we're getting there. So this thing, can I just like pull in the player itself? No, I need to. How do we do that again? Editable children, right? That's how we do that. And that inventory we can assign there. So in theory, that should now, every time we run the game, give us a random inventory. Well, it's so random that it doesn't exist. I don't know, dude. I think what we're going to do is we're going to stop here for today, because this is just a mess. It's just actually horrible. I'm going to think about if I want to even pick this up with Ryder, to be honest with you. Because I feel like I might not want to, but that might just be me right now. Maybe when I think about this, like tomorrow or on Tuesday, with like a slightly different perspective, maybe I'll want to invest a little bit more time into this. But to be honest with you, I don't think there's much. Like the moment-to-moment coding experience will be better when I'm using Ryder. I am sure. Mostly because my IntelliSense will be working. But the thing is, like the other issues that we ran into today, like the fact that I can't like expose my own structs or classes that I'm making. Which I know that I keep coming back to that, but that is a pretty big sticking point for me, to be honest with you. So, do I even bother giving the moment-to-moment coding experience another shot? While I kind of already made up my mind now. Because it's not the only issue, to be very clear, right? Because I was thinking about this today while I was on a walk. Because I was thinking, okay, I'm going to stream today. I need to work toward like a story for the video and like explanations as to why I hold the opinions that I hold. And one of the things that I end up coming up with, let me zoom it real quick so I can like draw things. We have like Unreal Engine. That's not the button that I wanted to use. We have like Unreal Engine, right? And Unreal Engine has like actors that are classes in and of itself. So there's like a inheritance hierarchy there, and they can also have components. So let's visualize that like this. This is a very structured way of working, which I personally like. It's one of the reasons that I initially switched back to Unreal after trying out Unity, because what Unity has is that's also a U actually. I didn't think about that. That is the UN. That's the United Nations. Unity has like game objects, and everything in your scene is just a game object with different sets of components on it. So it's entirely composition based, which is a lot more free flowing, a lot less structured from the engine to the user, which can be a upside or a downside. I personally like that forced structure, but I can see why people don't like it. But at least it still has a structure of everything in your fucking game is going to be a game object that is composed of objects or components. Then we have Godot here, and Godot is kind of just like a box with a lot of like empty components just kind of floating around in it, and you just kind of have to figure it out. Like on a spectrum from like overextending in structure, where Unreal is arguably, to understructured as far as like workflow goes, I don't think Godot offers you enough structure as well. I think Unity, funnily enough, probably actually falls within the middle here in a fairly comfortable spot. Once again, I use Unreal. I like Unreal. I can see that there's things that Unity is better at. But I think that where Unity exists is a pretty comfortable spot. I think where Godot exists, from what I've experienced in these like 20 or so hours of using it, is a little too loose. Maybe. Which is another issue that I'm having. And that is probably just a me issue, because without external pressure to work in a more structured way, I end up being quite chaotic. As anybody watching any of these streams probably has figured out by now. But that's another issue where I'm like, I don't love that, right? Because if we just real quick go back to Godot, like what do we have here? Like this is a player, but this player is a component in and of itself, which has a script on it, which makes it a different component, because this script inherits from the type of component that player is, which is character body 2D. So now, at this point, is this a character body 2D or is this a player? Well, effectively it is a player, right? This script just makes it a child class object of what the original object was. But this... and this is a tile map. And this is like just an image. With some more like child nodes to it. But I'm not sure that I love the... and you could argue that everything in the end like inherits back to node. I don't think that is quite structured enough for my liking. But it's like not an invalid argument either. But that's another thing that I was thinking about today, which I personally don't love. And there's like... over these streams we've run into multiple things where I'm an idiot. And issues are entirely on me. Either misunderstanding or being too fucking thick to read the chat and get the answer. Believe me, I've edited the first stream and a half of this. Like the first 9 or so hours of me using Godot, I've edited it down into like 30 minutes by now. I know how frustrating some of those parts are with me just being blind. That happens. I want to take like full responsibility for that. I don't want to just shove that into Godot sucking, because that's not what happens there. But there's also but there's also a good handful of moments where I'm like, yeah, no, that is definitely just Godot maybe not being bad, but not being what I would want it to be and how I would want it to work. And I think today's stream, with like the issues that we ran into, is kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for me. Where I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't think that I want to move on another like 5 to 10 hours into Godot before coming to this same conclusion. I think this part of this project is kind of run its course. And we should maybe just let this die. Does that seem a little bit like radical? Maybe? I don't know. Anyway, sometimes Raylib is better for 2D. I've seen a little bit of Raylib use recently and looked real cool. Looked real nice. I'm definitely like, now that we've talked about Rider on this stream, like even if I'm not going to use it for Godot, I'm probably going to check it out for Unreal. Because I think that it's just a good thing for me to get into. And it's also like for the purposes of, and I'm thinking still about this because I'm still going to tune this into a video, right? I'm like 20 hours into this as like a production. So, and this is not a satisfying end to the video, I don't think. I don't think making a video, ending it like, I kind of didn't feel like it anymore. We're done now. That's not a good satisfying end. So I think what we should do is what I mentioned earlier in the stream. I think I should take the assets, like the tile map and the sprite sheets and stuff like that I have right now, and the general like design ideas that I have, and I think we should remake it in Unreal Engine as like a point of, if I'm going to say that instead of using Godot for 2D, I would rather stick with Unreal Engine for 2D, I should stick with Unreal Engine for 2D and actually fucking do that. You need to make money in the timers. Partly that. I think that making the video framed as Godot versus Unreal Engine instead of Unreal Engine developer uses Godot is more clickable. Like, I'm being 100% transparent there with you. But at the same time, if I'm adding like another 20, 30, 40 hours in Unreal working on this over the next like month or two, I'm not making minimum wage on this, right? I'm not making minimum wage on most of my videos. Arguably that Unreal versus Unity video, if you count the hours that I worked on it versus what that video made, I made a bit over minimum wage. Everything else on my channel that I do, I'm not even making minimum wage. So that's not entirely like that. That is not the main driving factor here. It's probably going to get more views. It's probably going to make more money. But it's still going to be, like, not a lot. Unless it is. Who knows? But I genuinely think that it makes for a better story. And, again, like, putting my money where my mouth is, saying that, no, I want to stick with Unreal. Like, that's an easy thing to say. But then to also do it, I think is a logical follow-through that I should do. So, yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. I think next week we're going to start using Paper. I think it's called like Paper ZD in Unreal. And remake this stuff inside of Unreal, which will probably be a bit faster as well. And I do need to take that into account for the video itself. Is the fact that I already like thought about a lot of how this code should work inside of Godot means that actually reconstructing that code in C++ in Unreal is gonna be a lot faster. I had that with my Unreal Unity video as well. I made it in Unity first because at the time I was more comfortable with Unity and C#. And then I remade it in C++ because I was still getting used to C++ at the time in Unreal. But already having had like the C# version of the code written meant that I only had to kind of figure out the syntax of how to write that same thing in C++. And we kind of get the same thing here, except for the fact that I can fucking expose structs in Unreal. So, yeah, I'm rambling. I'm in a very rambly, tangential mood today. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Thanks for arguing with me about pronouns. That's always fun. And I'll be back on Tuesday with probably this project, but then in Unreal. It's going to be exciting. It's going to crash a lot, I bet. See ya.